Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Expansive CEO Podcast. I'm Hannah Chapman here and got my co host, Lauren Ammon. Hello. And we are so excited this week. We teased this last episode, but the thing that we were working on got released this week, and it's so exciting. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to keep talking about money stories. So we're on money story train right now. What are money stories? How do they different ways that they show up, and the different ways that we have worked through our money stories. Me, Lauren, like we've come at it from different approaches. And we're going to share those with you too. So let's do it. Where do you want to start, Lauren?
Oh God. Well, first of all, that we have, something exciting to announce. We teased it a lot last week. And it's money story cards.
Moneystorycards.com to be
Yes.
exact.
Yes. Um Something super exciting, and we talked about this last week, came out of I, I wanted to say it came out of nothing. That's not necessarily true, but it's kind of true, right? It was something that you and I were talking about offline or truly online. We were recording some different things. We were talking about, how couples come together, whether they're a new relationship, they're ending a relationship, starting a second or third relationship, and the money stories, or at least the money conversations that you as a CFP recommend, things you've seen, those sorts of things. So when we got done with all of that, it was just kind of like, okay, here's what it looks like. Here's what it sounds like. We were running through some of the scripts, and then that manifesting generator was just like, I'm on it. I got it. And the idea of, hey, we saw something in writing and I'll let you take over because it was your experience, because it was so fun to watch. And as someone who is such a human design nerd, to be like, I see that manifesting generator and the in the moment response of your channel of the beat, like, oh, I see the direction. I'm headed there.
Mhm. So I would love to share that experience too of what that feels like because I've had those moments of flow where it is just like this is really easy. This is really, really easy. Um, and so the money story cards came and I think I told the story just a little bit, but we didn't say what it actually was. So again, moneystorycards.com, that URL was available. I bought it. So I have a whole collection. So many URLs. It's great. Okay. So you can literally type that in to your search bar. It'll take you straight to moneystorycards.com. I'm gonna show you real quick too, because we've got our website. It's so cute. Love it. So you can get the core deck, you can get the core deck and the expansion pack, and then you can have different expansion packs for different parts of your life. So we'll explain that a little bit more as we go through. Um, but as I was editing, literally, Lauren had put together an article uh, to, like she said, like we were talking about, how do you start the conversation? How do you come together financially as a couple in a way that, like, come together and start the way you intend to go, right? So we want to start off on the right foot. And as I was editing this article, I was like, I need to be able to give people questions. So it's because I keep saying, you got to start the conversation, you got to start the conversation, and then not giving anyone like a sentence to start with, right? Which is so annoying. Um, I hear it. I hear how annoying that is. And so I was thinking about it and I was like, okay, I just need to give, in this article, like 3 to 5 questions to kick people off. Here, start the conversation this way. And so honestly, I went over to Claude and said, hey, here's me. It knows my whole background. This is where I think AI is actually super helpful, and can be, from a philosophical standpoint, a helper to the humans. not a
Yes.
replacement for the humans, but a helper to the humans. Um, and said like here, what are the questions? Like help me pull them out of my brain because I've said so much stuff. I think that's the thing for me is that I verbalize a lot. Um, and then it's gone.
Yes.
And so I don't write down everything I say, but people will hear things and be like, that was brilliant. I'm like, great. What did I don't know what I just said.
Yes. Yeah.
It's
100%.
so that's in my human design too, for sure. Um, but that aspect of, like, okay, help me pull out this information that I know is there, but sometimes it's hard for me to pull out on my own. And then literally from that question, it just flowed into, well, what if this was 52 questions and it was a whole deck? Because I freaking love these conversation decks that are out now. There's so many different kinds. There's some really good ones. There's like fun ones. There's like spicy romantic ones. There's like really deep emotional ones. There's like ones that are a little bit hard, like challenging. Um, and I've bought and tried quite a few different ones. I have ones for the kids. Um, and so I was like, I've never seen one about money stories. And so I searched around, didn't see anything like that. There's like affirmation card decks where,
Yeah.
yeah, be a millionaire boss babe. Yep, of course. Love it. You can go get your affirmation decks. I have Oracle decks. I have all kinds of decks of cards. But that's not what this was. I was like, nope, that's not what it is. Um, there are other like more pointed, more technical ones. I'm like, nope, that's not what this is. This is the work that I've done for, the last 6 years targetedly, my whole life, really, if I, think back to what has what my journey has been. And so it literally just flowed from I want 3 to 5 questions and then no, I want 52 questions. And then I created a card deck and then I sent it to Lauren. I was like, look what I did. And then I was like, wait a second. There's only like 8 cards. It was different categories. There's like your origin stories, your relationship, work, a few different categories and like 8 cards per category. I was like, well, that's not enough. If someone wants to dive in to a certain topic, I'm like,
Right.
and then I thought about, Cards Against Humanity, which is very different. Not the same at all. But they have expansion packs. Right? So it's like you have all the cards and you're like, "Well, I wish I had more cards because I used all these cards." Well, now they have expansion packs, right? So it's like there's a romantic and life partners expansion pack. There's a business partners expansion pack. There's a parent and child expansion pack. And then founders, business owners expansion pack. If you want to focus on one area and have like another good like 20 to 30 questions on just that one area. And seriously, the bulk of the work was done in 2 hours. And that was it. And then the next day, so that was a Thursday evening. Friday, you picked it up and we're like, "Oh my god." Like, "Okay, now here's this and that and like 5 other things and here are the questions." And then my what do I want to say? Like put it together and make it work brain went into
Mhm.
action. We tried a few different things like what website are we going to put it on? What makes sense? How is it going to be delivered? And so then I went into that like mechanic mode,
Yes.
which is like, so there's the ideation phase that was super easy and just flowed beautifully. Then there's the mechanic phase of like, okay, now we got to do the thing, make it work. And then we got stuck because everything worked and then it didn't work on iOS mobile. I was like, shit. It works everywhere else, but Apple has this restriction on downloading files on mobile. It's
Yes.
like, okay. So then I had to figure that was I was getting I was my energy was starting to flag at that point.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, now I got to figure it out. So then my husband actually helped me get the steps to, okay, here's how we're going to do it and how it's going to actually get delivered. That one took me about 2 more hours once I got to it and then it was done. And then I was like, I don't want to see this again for like, I don't know how long. Like, all done, all done.
Tapping
But
out.
I'm tapped out. I'm tapped
Take
out
it
on
at
that.
20.
Yes. And so it really truly was such a powerful example of how when my inspiration hits, it just goes. And it doesn't mean it's perfect in the first try, and that's where partnership has been such a value to me is it's like my energy can do a lot. It can get like a huge lift done really quickly, but then when it comes to like buttoning everything up and making it perfect and polished and everything else that goes with it, then I'm like, I'm tired, I can't, and I'm all done.
Yeah. It's hilarious because you're like, I did, look what I did. And I was like, oh, holy shit. Okay. Like, this is brilliant. And I was like, and you were just like working, working, working. And they'd be like, I got this and I got this and I got this. I was like, oh, and then over here, the peer generator is just like, wait, there's something in the middle. There's, there's, there's something. And then I think the greatest part is that it's almost what it felt like was a handoff of like the surge and the awareness must become a deed, right? That's the channel of charisma, a design of awareness that must become a deed. And it was like it just came up and out and was manifested in that way. And then I could come in and be like, okay, we just got to organize it now. Now it just needs a little bit, to your point, just a little bit of polish, a little bit of zhuzh here and there, and then poof, we good, right? And is it perfect? Probably not. I mean, what is, right? But it's there as a starting point, right? There is that, okay, we know it's really important to have the conversation, but how do we have it? And that's something that I think we talked about in the last episode is like, yeah, I could, this, this is really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And, if you have an open solar plexus or any sort of undefined solar plexus, having that conversation is going to be like,
Hmm.
good. I'm going to shove that one back down.
I would like to avoid that conflict
Yes.
or what could potentially lead to a conflict. Maybe it's not, right? Like that's the thing most of the time, especially for those of us with an undefined solar plexus, is like we're worried of the conflict that could be more so than, we build it up like it's going to be horrible and
Yeah.
and and 90% of the time it's not. It's like,
Yes.
oh, it was fine.
Right. The other part, though, too, is it's something so sensitive and something so deep and ingrained as money. I would say, as someone who has an undefined solar plexus, yes, there would be the conflict of dealing with that, with the other person, but also avoiding the emotional surfacing of whatever money story that could come up. It's like, oh, I don't really want to feel that. I know it's there. I just don't want to face it.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
But then again, as you talked before we got on, like being a generator, like sometimes it truly is like it's when you have something to respond to that it makes the entry into or the stepping into just slightly, I'm not going to say easier, uh, makes it more inviting, I think. It's like I got something here and okay, all right, it's in front of me.
They're pretty,
Yes.
right? You look at it, you're like, "Oh, you look safe." Okay. Okay, but that might be a little hard question, but it's okay.
Yeah. But at the same time, and I truly believe in this kind of stuff. And, whoever thinks I'm too will, congratulations. I probably think you're too logical. It's fine. Like, I truly believe because of the energy that it came from, it's yours. That is part of the way that you allow others to feel safe in the space of money. These cards come from that energy.
Mm, yeah.
You know, and that is truly ingrained in the experience energetically. Because, one, we're all connected. Two, we're connected to everything around us. and just being able to experience. So yes, there may be some hard questions. There are. I'm not gonna lie. There are hard questions in there. But even reading them and being faced with them, you, as a recipient of them, you get the whole like, okay, this feels safe. I don't know why. I can't explain it, but it feels safe. And a part of that, and I truly believe this, comes from being born or birthed through your energy, which is the whole reason that people love coming to you when talking about money.
That thank you first. Thank you for saying that. Give that a moment to, like, land and receive it, because that has been my philosophy for the last several years very intentionally. I would again, I think that's always been there in some ways, but, like, unconsciously, and in the last, I think, 2 years, really, it has been, like, I've been explicit about that, like, explicitly intentional of building from love, building from that space of, like, whatever I create next, I want it to be, I intend for it to be, I choose for it to be built in love and be sent out into the world from that space. So for you even to call that out of, like, and then because again, in the moment, I was just inspired creating.
Yeah, yeah,
But when you call that out, it's like, oh yeah, there was no other agenda at play. It was just like, people need questions to respond to. I can do that. Here we go. Like, I know how to do that. Um, so that people can have these really important conversations with themselves and with the people that they need to have conversations with. Like, and yeah, to have it come from love, how you called that out too, that channel of charisma, which if you look at the chart, it goes from the 34 in the sacral up around the left to the throat to
hmm,
the 20. So 3420 is the channel of charisma, which is technically the manifesting generator channel.
yes, it's the pure manifesting generator.
And so that is what it feels like to me. I could stop it if I had to, but it's like when I allow myself, when that inspiration is hitting and, like, we're doing the thing, if I allow myself to ride that wave, it's so easy
Yeah,
and truly easy in the creation process when the inspiration is there and the action is paired with the inspiration in that moment.
yes,
Versus if I were to be like, okay, I'll work on this later, it's not there necessarily in the same
yeah,
way.
yeah. Again, I think we talked about this last week. And I will reiterate it. It's a perfect example of being just so caught up in the satisfaction of the, oh, I see it. And it wasn't tied to, oh, if we do this, then we'll get X. No, it was just tied to, in part to the sixth line, right? Of being the role model of, here's how I've served as a role model when I have mediated these kinds of conversations between clients. And again, to your point, is like sometimes when we do these things, regardless of what you do and how you serve other clients, that we all have our moments of brilliance, and someone will reflect it back to you, and you'll be like, oh, I okay, thank you, great, right? I have no idea what it just came up and out of my mouth, right? Um, but that sixth line of being the role model, it's also like a channel of that role model of, here's what I've done, here's how it's worked, and now it's like, oh, I'm just so caught up in the satisfaction of being able to give the world something to work with, more from the impact of to make the conversations possible.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you would be, well, maybe you wouldn't be shocked. Most people don't have any real conversations about money by
No,
themselves,
I'm I'm not shocked by that at all.
right? I mean, like, it's just they just don't. Couples don't have that conversation. When couples do come to me, um, or single people, it doesn't like regardless, most of the time when I ask them questions that I think are really simple and basic, they're like, "I've never thought about this before. No one's ever asked me that question before." Like, what does retirement actually look like to you? What would actually be enjoyable to you in that phase of life? Most people are like, "What do you mean no one's ever asked you that question before?" Like, "No, no one's ever asked me that question before." Like, okay. Well, we're asking questions. And that has been truly, that has been, again, this is a generator thing for sure. I mean, that's what my practice has really been based on in X squared is that like I need to ask you a lot of questions. And we need to ask different questions than what you've been asked before so that your brain gets, kind of like, oh, I gotta like think in a different way than I've ever thought before. And so yeah, all of my processes are based on like we need to ask better questions.
Well, yeah, it being a generator thing, and actually what came up too. Sorry, I'm a listener or watcher. I have my human design nerd book right next to me. Um, I was just looking at your personality sign, right? You're four. It's the youthful folly. I think is gate four,
Mhm.
and the answers, right? I mean, like it's rooted in answers. That when something logical comes up, and it's like, oh wait, there's now doubt in the pattern. Let's find an answer to see if the pattern sticks or it doesn't. And with a purpose rooted in the quarter of duality of bond, right? Your purpose is fulfilled through bond. How else are you going to get into the root and heart of another person without understanding who they are and asking the questions and getting deep? And what also surfaced when you were talking about that is that, yeah, yeah, like when we set out to do these things, and you come into your first job or your parent, I remember, the money story when it comes to retirement is, yeah, you get a corporate job and you save, 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 save. Have the money, right? That was the story, is have the money. Uh, okay, but when I have, what the fuck do I do with that? What is it that I want
Everything else
my
about that.
right? What does it, and thinking back on it, it's like, Jesus Christ, duh. Like when you're 20 some years old and you now have this 401k and you're like, oh, I'm saving for the future. But imagine imagine how okay, imagine how much more effective your saving becomes. Imagine how much more um energetic energetically open and free the saving is if there's an intention set behind it. That's what I said. Oh, I'm sitting here as I'm like, words are coming out of my mouth, never thinking about that before. And again, when it comes to money, it's like, it's all rooted in our stories. And the fact, again, part of my story is money was never talked about.
Yeah.
Like we had it, but and again, that created this like, oh, if fear, well, fear probably is part of the word, but just this lack of connection to it.
Mhm.
That money is just this thing you had to have in order to survive and retire, and you keep it in this account, and you never touch it, and you don't do anything with it, and you never look at it. You just, and it's kind of like you close it behind a door. And if you're never thinking about it, if you're never, to your point, what is it actually going to do for me when I'm ready to have it? And if I never think about what I want to do with it, how do I know if I'm going to have enough of it
Right.
for what I want to do?
Mhm.
Again, yeah. So asking these like really basic questions and then putting a mirror in front of someone and being like, oh, well, no one's asked me what I want to do with the money that I hoarded away. And
Yeah. Well, and then from that lens too, it also that's where a lot of the anxiety lives of, am I doing enough? I don't know if I'm doing enough. Like,
Oh,
I'm
geez.
doing what I think I'm supposed to do, but I have no idea if it's going to get me where I'm trying to go. I don't know where I'm trying to go. I just assume I have to have more of it, more and more and more and more, and that's all that matters, when that's really not
Right.
what matters
And
necessarily.
then the whole like, well, don't ever look at it because you'll be, don't ever look at it during a time of depression or recession because then you'll get really depressed and then you're like, oh God, okay. Or then if you look at it at a time, where the market's high, you're like, oh, hey, totally cool. And then that's what I remember about it too. It's like starting out, it's like again, you lock up behind a door and you hope. I was going to say something really crude. You hope and pray that it works for you by the time you need it, and it's just over there. And again, I don't know if it's fear. I think part of that is, but there's a word that I can't find that it was like it's this like the Wizard of Oz. It's this thing behind the curtain that you think is benevolent until you see behind the curtain because you created the curtain through no fault of your own. Again, your money stories are ingrained from, as it says on the website, like at the dinner table, conversations that were being had around you or not had around you. So, like, I think that's the best analogy is like I thought it was benevolent, and you peek behind the curtain, and it's like, oh, okay, well, that's a little different than I thought it was going to be. Or actually, I'm thinking more wicked than I am the Wizard of Oz, but that sort of thing of like, oh, or it could be wicked of like, I think it's benevolent and turns out not so much. Or it could be like the Wizard of Oz of like, oh, that's what
Just
you
a
are?
little just a little guy.
Just a little guy? Oh, well, what the hell am I fearful of that thing? Right? And it almost like brings up this idea of like, how do we start, well, at least maybe for me, right? How do you start to have more of a playful relationship with money?
Hmm. Mm. Uh, you brought up a point that I have never thought of in that particular way, that the prevailing advice to put the money in and then don't look at it creates exactly that same anxiety. Like, there is wisdom there in, like, if you look every day and you stress yourself out about it, like, that's not necessarily healthy. Um, but what I have experienced with clients who go from that, and then when we're in, like, I'm not supposed to look, I don't even look at my statements, I don't even know. Um, and then they move into, like, the retirement phase or job change or whatever it is, and now they have to start using their portfolio to create income. Now they're ultra sensitive to seeing any wiggle in their portfolio, and it's terrifying to them, and, like, almost to the point, like, of panic, right? Like, emotional, just absolutely no regulation around it. It is really, really difficult to digest in the nervous system when the portfolio moves. And that, from an advisor standpoint, is really challenging to help navigate. It takes a lot of patience and a lot of reassurance and a lot of education now. Like, now we have to educate you about how this happens, because you didn't look at it for 30 years, because people told you not to look at it for 30 years. And now you have to look at it because it's literally what creates your income. And so that, yes, that is absolutely, when you said it that way, it, like, oh, well, yeah, that's why I do believe, like, the education in the room while you are building is so important, so that you can look and start to, again, understand how things work. So you don't have to understand every aspect of it, right? And I'm not asking you to be an expert, not asking you to like be able to understand how every stock and bond works and, all of those things. Like we're professionals for a reason, right? That's a lot of information.
Yeah.
it's it's a lot.
You've done that work. I'm not gonna do that work.
Right. But your work or the client side work is to be able to look at everything with open eyes, take it in, and be able to ask questions. And my job as the advisor is to be able to educate you about anything that you want to know about and to tell you why we're doing what we're doing and why your portfolio is the way it is and why it's maybe moving this way or that way, and why we're choosing the investments we're choosing. Right? That's important information that allows you to again understand how and why your money moves the way it does or does not. And that is, uh, I mean, I feel like just having that clarity of, this is, yes, in a down market, yes, your accounts are likely going to be down. When everything else is down, yeah, probably. That is how it works. When everything else is up, yeah, you're probably going to be up. And over time, over that long, 10, 20, 30, 50 years, it smooths itself out, right? Like what looks really jagged in the moment, um, we were up 2% and then we were down 1% today, or we were up 20% over the last year and now everything's down 5%. Okay, yes, you can feel that jaggedness in the days, weeks, months. But when you zoom out for 10 years, suddenly the graph just looks like it goes up. Right? And that's how it works. Um, all of the spikes up and spikes down that we see on a daily basis, they smooth themselves out over time. And so, I mean, that I literally used this example with a client the other day, and I think it's super relevant. I love her. I every time we meet, she's just such a sweet, amazing human. She is starting a new part of her business
Mhm.
and has had, was like we were talking about, okay, it's the first opportunity, the first coaching prospect. She's having a conversation with, and she needed to send the proposal and you know, talk about the pricing and, you know, she had the prospect had seeded the idea that she was worried about the cost in the initial meeting. And so the client was not worried about saying like, okay, this is the price is the price. She's great at that, but she was worried about having to justify it to the prospect. Um, and so we worked through some of that and her own fears around what was happening in, you know, this is more what it was. It was that she was feeling like, why am I here again on this growth journey of, we've been working through money stories for years and truly like amazing. She's done such amazing work. But then this piece has come up again in a different way of, being worried about it, feeling like I have to justify prices a little bit, feeling, a little bit shaky around money. And what was coming up to share was that there will always be wiggles. There will always be, no matter how far you grow, you're going to have, ups and downs at every level. And the first, the reaction is always like, why? Why? Why can't we just be done with the wiggles, right? Like, why can't I just be like fully confident, not have to worry about it? It's like, well, because that's not how life works. That's not how anything works. There's always going to be, she's a sacral generator. So undefined solar plexus, as well. But like we're always going to have an emotional something, right? That rocks the boat. And the way that I zoomed out from there, because we've talked about this before, I talk about this a lot in coaching, is that like life is kind of like a spiral staircase. We've talked about it on the podcast before too, right? Like, and when you come back around to something that you've worked on before, it's not actually the same. You're at a different level. You're seeing it from a different vantage point. You're at a different level with it. And just like I love the S&P 500 analogy here because it's the exact same, right? Like when I started back, 20 years ago, I think the S&P was in the like 2,500 to 3,000 range, maybe even a little bit less, right? So that means like the whole index was worth, I'm not going to look it up at the moment. We're going to say 2,500. We
Mhm.
would have days where it would be up 5% and, times where it dropped 20% around that 2,500 level.
Mhm.
And then over the course of the last 20 years, we are now up and over 7,000 points on the S&P 500. So we've grown a lot in the last
Mhm.
20 years. And around that 7,000 level, we will still have days where we're up 2%, days where we're down 3%, months where we're up 5%, months where we're down 10%. We're going to still move around that level, just like we did at this level.
Mhm.
But over time, like you have made progress from one to the other. And so again, we keep we keep moving through the ups and downs, knowing that over time we are making progress. We are experiencing growth. And sometimes we really have to zoom out and say, oh yeah, 10 years ago, I was over there being scared to even, charge my worth.
Mhm.
If someone were to question my prices, I would have been like, "Oh my god, I'll just cut them in half right now." Right?
Not gonna do it.
I'll do it for free. I mean, I don't know. And to think that like you've gone from there to the price is the price. And if
Yeah.
that's not okay for you, that's okay.
Mhm.
But that's what I'm willing to share my time and my expertise for.
Yes. That's the
That
bargain.
that's the bargain. That level of growth is humongous. And so to like be able to like step back and see that's yes, you're feeling the wiggle around it right now. You're feeling the emotions of it right now, but it's so different than it was, 5, 6, 10 years ago when we really zoom out. And so that money story, coming back to the money stories aspect of it is because it was super relevant to that conversation too, is that your job as a coach, as a guide, as a mentor, in this space, even she's not working on money with her clients, she's working on other aspects, but her job, part of it is in the sales conversation to hold space for that client's money story
Mhm.
and to know that that's not her money story. That's like that feels expensive is not your money story, that's their money story. And our job in that moment as practitioners is to be curious.
Mhm.
It's not to defend. It's not to say, "Oh, gosh, yeah, but when, it'll be so good for you from everything you've said, like it's like exactly what'll help you get to the next level." It's not to justify and defend the price. If someone says to you, "Oh, well, I had this happen a couple of weeks ago with someone talking about the program, the regenerative wealth program, and he was like, "Oh, well, that feels expensive." And I looked at your prices and, for some of your other coaching, and it's quite a bit more than other people charge in, this space. And this is the true growth. And I give my client this example too. I was like, yeah, before my first initial reaction to wow, that feels a little expensive would have been like a little bit of a zap.
Mhm.
in the heart. And I would have had to like take a breath and like reset and be like, okay, second reaction is curiosity. Now, my literal first reaction was, oh, that's interesting. Tell me why. Zero emotional charge because I know that that's his money story.
Mhm.
And so I was, oh, interesting. Uh, Tell me more about that. And he came all the way back around to realizing that, oh, the people that I'm seeing that are charging, less than half or less of what you're charging, they're struggling financially. Like, yeah, exactly. they're not they're not making ends meet. There's a reason. There's a reason why like it's there's like such a scarcity um and lack mindset. I'm gonna put that. I don't usually talk in those terms, but that lives in especially the spiritual coaching space that he's
Mhm.
in, like Gene Key's area. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's actually the problem. Like, I know. You need to learn how to charge the right amount, and that's what I'm doing. And it's not unreasonable.
Right.
It's not the highest. I know we're not the highest priced. I know that for a
Right.
fact.
Yo, yes.
We've talked about that before. Um, but I'm certainly not going to race to the bottom and be the cheapest provider because that doesn't actually serve anyone to be able to live in this, in our economy. So anyway, that recognizing money stories, like the importance of this work is not just in uh, becoming aware of yourself. I mean, that's always the first step, and aware of your money stories and how important that is, and healing those in different
Mhm.
ways. Then it's, with your partners, with the people close to you, with your children, with your business partners, that's very, very important. But the work itself, the elevation of that work is especially if you work. I mean, all of us, not everyone is working in a way that they're interacting with the money side of things.
Mhm.
But if you're a business owner, if you're a leader, if you're a sales leader, if you touch money any way in your business or a business, then you are also coming into contact with everyone else's money stories all the time. I would say probably even in like the non-money sides of, right? Like
Oh, yeah.
you were worked with leaders and teams and right? It's like the money stories
Yes.
that exist everywhere, like the way that healing your own money stories and becoming aware of them and being able to hold space for them then allows you to start to see it outside of you. The way you can hold space and have compassion for people is completely changed.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, our wiggle to your point, our wiggles never go away. Never. But and exactly what you said, the power in doing this work is that the patterns hold you're not as what's the word? How do I want to say this? You're not held as hostage
Yeah.
by them. The more that you uncover them, the more you work through them, the more that you hold your own space for your money story and give yourself grace for like, I mean, I was, making this up, right? I was 10 years old when I saw that conversation. Like, how did I know to filter it in that moment? Or that it was going to ingrain something in me that I, at 44 years old, now have the opportunity to undo, or that I needed to undo it in the to begin with. And to your point is like the more that you start to work on yourself in any capacity, the more compassion you have for other people. And that's why I get so annoyed by our current society of like, well, if someone just isn't working for you, you can just fuck off and tell them to move on. Be your boss girl and set your boundaries. Yes, there's yes, set your boundaries and recognize that sometimes when you start working on yourself, dynamics of the people around you will change. And it's a matter of understanding, does the bargain work for me anymore? And it's the same kind of with the money story. Is that you recognize the bargain you're asking people to enter into because you know that you've done the work and you see that it's that the power and transformation or the service that you provide or the knowledge you bring to other people is worth what you're asking, despite the fact they may not necessarily see it that way. And to have compassion for someone to be like, okay, well, let's walk through that a little bit and let's see where that came from, or depending on what your service is and how deep you want to get into it. But yeah, I mean, awareness truly is the gateway to transcendence.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%. 100%. And that just brought up in that conversation of boundaries and holding your value. And if, the work of, okay, noticing, well, that's their money story, that this is expensive. So being curious about okay, why have you ever worked with someone in this capacity before? Do you have a frame of reference for what it's expensive or not? What are you comparing it to? What does that mean to you? What does it mean to your current budget? Right? Like all that's curiosity. Um, and also this the work there of knowing that if you're not working on money stories and they really can't get past it, then it's not on you, right? Your money story before might have been, all right, well then I gotta lower my prices, or I gotta work something out, or I gotta people please in some way to make this work. It allows you to be like, oh no, I can hold that boundary. I'm safe.
That's a healthy boundary. The boundary of, okay, just doesn't work, and that's a boundary. Just to have that. Okay, this bargain or this partnership isn't meant to be right now, and maybe ever. It doesn't matter, right? Sometimes I think because we hold so much inside of ourselves that we tend to put so much meaning on everything. And that's another uh, gateway to freedom of working on your money stories, is recognizing you can let some of it, majority of it, go and release that. And, I mean, it's all the moment that you start understanding the pattern and having something like a money story card kind of put the pattern in front of you so that you can start to see it. I mean, one of the most powerful questions is, and I'm probably not going to get the wording right, is what is your earliest memory of money? Right? That question in and of itself can open up the door to a pattern of like, oh, oh yeah, I didn't see that one before. And it's kind of like what we talked about at the beginning of the episode, is how you and I both got there in very different ways, and how we started to see our own patterns.
Hmm.
And it's funny because not until I got, and again, this wasn't something that I ever thought that human design would ever provide for me, but in understanding my energy, and I don't, to be honest, if someone asked me how I did it, that's my least favorite question on the planet, because I'm like, I don't know. I just did it. Right. But I mean, I have some more awareness now of how I got to this point, but understanding the human design and like, when I first understood like what the energy mechanics meant, is like I could reverberate it, logically, or regurgitate it logically and be like, that's what it means. It wasn't until I went through some of the most difficult experiences of my life that I saw mechanics in real time and was like, oh, that's what it really means to avoid confrontation. That's what led me to believe it's not just confronting the emotions of other people. It's confronting your own emotions and what you feel about something or what something feels like to you. And, one of the greatest examples of that is money. And again, I didn't set out in my healing journey after my divorce or my healing journey after my brother-in-law died or my healing journey after, I'll just say it, my parents cast me aside, that I understood some of my deepest set patterns and how they not only relate to money, but how they relate to just about every single thing in my life.
Mhm.
And it's, people ask, like, did you talk to somebody? Did you work with a therapist? I was like, no, I just went deep into myself and just started digging.
Had the courage, truly, and the courage to look.
Yeah, I think actually, I think for me, the spark, the starting point was just how much emotion surfaced
Mhm.
after I decided to get divorced and after my children knew. Then it all came out. And for me, the spark was, oh, holy shit, I have to process this emotion. This is 20, if not 30, if not 35 years of emotion coming out that I finally had the courage to, challenge the values that I was raised with, that I challenged what other people considered to be the path that I should follow. And it was it was just the almost unbearable level of emotion.
Mhm.
But knowing what I knew about human design and knowing what I knew that with an undefined solar plexus, that I had stored decades of emotion, not just my own, but other people. And it was almost like the moment that I spoke my truth, which was, I'm pretty much going to break every belief that I was ever raised with. And I'm going to have to face the people who instilled those beliefs in me and tell them, ooh, so sorry, I changed my mind. Um, that was the real impetus. And it was like, okay, well, then we're going to start digging.
Yeah. Yeah, and to have walked with you through that time, like, that it was also your courage to keep the box open, right? Like you said, like, there's so much there, but you could have put the lid back on. That was an option, and instead you didn't. Again, like,
Because
that courage was huge to keep the lid off, to keep processing.
Yeah, because I knew what it meant. I finally understood what it meant to have an undefined solar plexus. And I was like, it, to keep it in has done a lot of damage. And I was like, well, what if I actually try? What if I actually step into the mechanics of it and see what really happens? And yeah, I still have my emotional wiggles for sure. I mean, there are times I'm like, yeah, I am definitely avoiding this. I am avoiding this with a 10-foot pole. But then I realized, yes, you are avoiding it. The only way you are going to get through it is to get through it. And that's why for me, my modality was going so deep into my undefined or open centers and really understanding, okay, where have those really played out in my life? And one of those was, you know, again, the whole like money comes with guilt and shame, asking for it. And the other was my people pleasing really comes from the pattern, like, if someone were to ask me, what's your earliest memory of getting in a fight with your parents? Actually, I've never asked that question of myself, but that's what it really goes to is like, I had to be the one to come crawling back. I had to make sure they felt emotionally safe. I don't know that I was ever apologized to, growing up. Um, and, the pattern of I have to make sure I've got to give everything to make sure that you feel okay, which plays into the whole avoiding confrontation, right? Of my emotions. Cause it was like, oh, every time I do something wrong, this negative emotion comes screaming my way. And then it was like, okay, well, I guess the only way to feel better is to go back and grovel and make sure that they feel okay. So that became the pattern. Is I can't speak up because then it makes people annoyed or angry or whatever, or I can't step outside of the lines because then that leads to disappointment and people aren't going to talk to me for days on end.
Mhm.
So that was my pattern of like, oh, well, that's why I never say anything because when I speak up, the pattern is people go away. People stop talking to me.
Yes. Yes, and that okay, so I wanted to bring this up. So if you're listening, we're looking at the not self strategies of the open centers. And it's a beautiful chart that comes from the Science of Differentiation book by Linda Bonnell. And it's so powerful. So if you're listening, you might want to go head over to YouTube and like find it so you can see the chart or just Google, not self strategies, open centers, human design. And it should come up gray. It's gray and it has the body graph and it tells you the different percentages. It's got percentages in each of the centers that tell you approximately how many humans have this center undefined in their chart. Um, and so what was coming up for me, Lauren, the reason I brought this up at this moment was because you have a defined throat. So you are here, like your throat is defined for you at all times to be able to speak about, especially about the opinions that you see, right? Like this, your channel, the seven,
Always there.
what's that one? 17
The channel of acceptance.
channel of acceptance. But yet, because this chart in particular does tell us these questions, the questions of the undefined center, the solar plexus down on the right side, the triangle kind of pointing in, says, "Am I avoiding confrontation and truth?" That's the question of that center, especially when it's undefined. Are you avoiding confrontation? We talked about that one a lot. And the heart center, right? 65% of people have an undefined heart center, by the way. That's huge. So
Yeah. Yes.
most people have an undefined heart center. And that one does say, do I think I have something to prove? We've talked about that one a lot too, because you have completely open heart center. I have a defined heart center, right? We've talked about that dynamic quite a bit. But one of the ways that I also love this chart, I still love these questions, even if we have defined centers, because you can still be, like you're saying, especially in the throat center, you can still be highly conditioned on a center that you are actually defined in, that you are meant to shine out that healthy energy. But for you, that closing of the throat was like it's such a um big point of healing to move
Yes.
through. And
Yeah.
so the question there of the undefined throat is, am I trying to attract attention? And so can you talk about that a little bit? Like what's the difference? So and for anyone who's like, okay, well, I'm very defined. I have, I've seen charts where everything is defined or where 7 out of 9 centers are defined. How do you work with some of these questions in that respect?
Yeah. So what's really interesting is that yes, I have a defined throat, but it's unconsciously defined. And it's only defined through one gate, gate 62. Um, so yes, and to your point, the way that I interpret human design, there's always a fine line between being defined and undefined. And it always comes down to how a center is defined or
Mm,
how defined a center is. And by that I mean how many gates are activated in it? Is it defined consciously or unconsciously? Is there a mix between consciously and unconsciously? Is there a heavier concentration, whether it's unconsciously defined or consciously defined? And I can only speak to this through my experience. Is that when I was going through all of this, I I sat down and because I have 167,000 books on human design, so I have, all the information at my fingertips. But I sat down and I went through each undefined center on its own. I read the information about it. I really just sat and absorbed it. And then I just started thinking, okay, well, where does this show up in my life? I would just, ask those questions or depending on what was going on in my life, I would be like, okay, where is this really showing up? So to give the listener and viewer of context, so I have an undefined head center. As you can see, that's the top triangle at the very top. The majority of humans have an undefined head center. We're just taking in all kinds of questions from everybody and we tend to absorb what other people are thinking about, and then all of a sudden we're running after questions that have no relevancy in our own lives. I have to say, I don't feel the effects of this one too much. I mean, there are times when I know I can get caught up and I'm like, wait, why am I thinking about that? That doesn't matter, right? So I'll stop myself, but that one doesn't have such visceral um deep rooted nervous system fuckery that the other three do. I don't know how
fair
to
enough.
describe that. So I have an undefined G center, which is the triangle in the middle. It
Diamond.
says 45. Diamond, thank you. God, I do that all the time. The diamond in the middle, 45% of us have it undefined. And the not self question here is, am I looking for love and direction? The answer is absolutely fucking yes, all the goddamn time. Sorry for my language, but yes, this is how visceral this is. And I also have a completely open heart center, which is the 65%, which is the teeny tiny little triangle kind of to the middle right of a chart. Do I think I have something to prove? Uh, yes. Really working through that center. And then an undefined solar plexus, which is the sideways triangle to the right of the chart, kind of near the bottom. Am I avoiding confrontation and truth? All the time. And one of the interesting things, and I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before, when I was working through my certification, one of my professors or instructors said, having all three undefined or open in some way, it's a heartbreak hotel.
In that particular circuit right there?
Well, yeah, the three of those just being undefined or open is a heartbreak hotel. I mean, think about it, right? It's the constant drive for looking for love and direction. Like in those of us who have an undefined G center, we have no we have no consistent sense of self. So we wake up every single day feeling like a different person, whether we're conscious of that or not. And it's just kind of like, I don't necessarily know who I am. And just think about the weight of what that puts on someone of like, where is love going to come from? Like, where is this external validation? Like, who is going to see me? Who is going to love me? Who is going to, you know, be on this path with me or be okay with the path that I'm taking? And then pair that with an undefined heart center. Do I have something to prove? It is constant pressure of God, I have to be the best friend. I have to prove that I'm the best daughter. I have to prove I'm the best business owner, leader, sister, aunt, mom, and just like all of this pressure of always feeling like you have something to prove. So you're looking for love and direction, and you got this proving thing behind it. Like, well, go prove that you can be loved by someone. Go prove that you can find where you're going. So let's add in the solar plexus. Keep your mouth shut about the shit that you don't want to deal with, or that you think is going to bring up an emotional reaction or emotional conflict, or bring up something through the relationship that you don't want to face. I mean, that energy, each energy in and of itself sucks. Put them all together. And that has been, that's where I started to see my patterns of like this proving, because mine is completely open. And I'm going to say something that I normally don't say when I talk with clients in human design. If a center is completely open, you are done with it evolutionarily. Like, you've mastered it. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to think about it. You're good. So when I think about that, having that wisdom of, Lauren, somewhere in the amount of times that you've been in your consciousness, depending, how many times you've been here on earth, you've worked through needing to prove yourself. You've worked through the energy of commitment, of willpower. And it just, and through my process of working through each individual center, it's like just taking off a layer of, oh, I don't have to worry about that. So, one thing with the G center is that as a generator, I will respond to things where I think that I'll find love and direction. So it's all about recognizing where your not self mind is taking over. And I can start to see those patterns. And it comes back to money as well, right? Like, do I have something to prove? Yeah, I do. I had to prove that I could make the business successful. So I'm going to prove that I can buy this program that I probably don't have the money for, because it will give me a direction and show that I can do this business, and that if I do it correctly and show everybody and prove it, well, then I'm going to get the money back and see, I did it. So let's just spend the money and we can keep going. How many times have I done that? Right. Also, I have a 3 line. So, if something's not correct for me, I'm going to pay for it materially. Really am. I really am. The other thing about, looking at from an open heart center, the heart center is the center related to material resources, the material plane. And if you think about it being completely open, I've mastered the material plane energetically. I just have to let life show me. I just have to keep responding. And we can get so caught up, to your question too, we could get so caught up in the definition of our defined centers. I have a defined root and I have a very defined root. I have I forget how many activations I have in my root. But what I also noticed in my, I know, like 9 or something, 10, I don't know. I have only 2 gates are undefined. But what I also noticed is that, like, keeping the emotion inside and bottling it up and pushing it down, but also succumbing to the pressure of trying to prove and find direction and love. Like, the pressure from my root center, like, I can feel it now when I'm getting caught up in my not self and in these questions. Like, it'll feel like it almost comes up from the bottom of my body, and it's just like this pressure of like, well, here you go. Here you go. Here it comes. And so just recognizing too that we can get into the not self of our defined centers, and just really recognizing, now I haven't done as much work on that side because I had so much work to do on the other side. And I still have so much work to do. I can actually feel it now. I can feel my open heart center being like, girlfriend, you just got to prove. You just go ahead. And that's where it's like setting the boundaries of, I am the ultimate people pleaser. I mean, I have things that I want to say to people. I have a lot of truth that I don't necessarily come out sometimes, but back to how you led into this, my throat, it's undefined. And it's also connected to opinions and judgment. So my voice has gotten me in trouble a lot because, and we've talked about this on the podcast, I can come forth with a lot of opinionated judgment. And there are times when it does come shooting out of my mouth, and I have no conscious recognition of it coming until it comes out, and I'm like, ooh, probably could have positioned that just slightly differently. Um, but at the same time, I'm also starting to own that because I understand the mechanics of that energy. And the mechanics of that energy is something in the system isn't working.
Mhm.
Something going on at the broader scale, whether it's in an organization, a team, someone's, money story, just watching someone's, as we walk through the regenerative wealth program, watching someone else's business from the outside, I really do have the like, oh, okay, I see the pattern. This is what isn't working. And it just like comes up and out. And because I'm unemotional, it can come up and out with legitimately no feeling whatsoever. It is very logical. It's just like, oh, this is it. But recognizing that, yes, it comes up and out, and recognizing that, yeah, it may not always sound the most loving or soft, but recognizing that that isn't necessarily my contribution. And I don't mean to say like I can just be a judgmental bitch wherever I go, but to also have grace for myself for the definition I have, which is I'm very good at recognizing what isn't working in a system.
Yes, and I mean, being on the receiving end of that, and it could just be that our relationship is different too. I've never once felt like you were in attack mode in that way, right? Like, so that even if you're like, I'm just going to say it the way it's going to come out, and then you say something, I'm like, oh, well, that was fine.
And it's
I don't know.
funny because, yeah, well, I think it is our relationship because I feel I know I can say, I know you understand me at a mechanical. So I don't hide myself. I know that what I say will be received with curiosity, with love, with understanding, with all the things that allow me to say the thing
Mm,
without pushback. No, 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 no. That's not fair because we do push back, but in a very healthy way. With it's without the, oh, well, there's Lauren. That's what it's without. Because that is a part of, holy shit. Sorry, listener and viewer, you're just getting some in the moment pattern recognition here. That's what I would say. Well, here goes Lauren. I'm the only 3-line in my family. No one else has a fucking 3-line. So, and I'm the youngest.
yeah.
So, yes, I have a lot of deep patterns. I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah. And well, and to the point of this entire conversation, like becoming aware of that, it, I mean, I would say it's, I mean, might put the Pareto principle on here. It's 80% of the work.
Yeah.
Because then what do we do with it? I mean, you have to do something with it. So it's not all of the work, but what do you do about it is actually so small compared to just having the awareness, recognizing the pattern. And then you can be like, oh, well, if I can see that pattern and I can express with Hannah, then I can do that with other people. I can try that with other
That's
people.
literally what I have been doing is like, and to get to the point of it's okay if someone doesn't understand me.
Mhm.
And it's okay if they make the choice. Now I'm going to get real deep. It's okay if they make the choice to shut me out or walk away.
Mhm.
It will hurt, probably. Yes, it will hurt. I'm not going to. But I also recognize everyone else has their patterns and their stories and their things. And I've actually gotten to a place too that I can have compassion for all of that, even though it really hurts.
Mm. It's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge, is to allow to love yourself enough to let you have your experience and let your experience be real and true. That is an act of self-love, 100%. But then not to, I think this comes from your channel of acceptance, actually, like the gift of farsightedness, right? The shadow is opinion, the gift is farsightedness of that gate 17 of, okay, this is my experience. My experience is true. I love myself enough to recognize it and believe me. And I also understand that my experience isn't the totality of experience.
Right. My truth is my truth. Right. Get another 1762 next to me. We're gonna have wildly different opinions on things, but both going to believe that we are absolutely right.
Mhm.
And I've thought about this channel too, because this channel is all about like the patterns that that we recognize, but it's the patterns we recognize based on our experiences.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that becomes truth. And I just laugh hysterically because I think, what was the universe thinking when it gave me a 3-line and an almost completely open G and a family that was like, oh, well, here goes Lauren again. Right. So the sense of self I had, still working through, is that I fuck up all the time. And that's who I am. And I'm like, No. Now, now I see it. I'm like, honey, you're gonna let me have to have my 3-line have its moment,
Yeah.
because then I can't make the contribution I'm here to make if I don't go out and fuck around and find out. So now I'm always like, okay, thanks so much for your input. I'm gonna go do my own thing.
Yes. Yeah, I think one of if we're because you're a 1-3 profile as well, and I have quite a few clients who are in that 1-3, profile bucket. The one of the most empowering things I think I can ever say to that profile is like your 3 line is what's gonna get your 1 line its data. The 1 line just wants to be safe and know everything, and it can't do that without the experimentation of the 3 line. That side of you that's just innately gonna like stuff is gonna happen. You gotta love that part because that makes your 1 line that much smarter, more grounded, more stable, all those things.
Yes. And the thing that you have to remember as a 1-3 is that your 3 is just gonna come shooting out of you. You're gonna be in something and you're like, why why am I doing this right now? Like, why am I in the middle of this what feels really chaotic? And it's because something on the foundational side, something on your 1 line was like, something's just not right here. It's not strong enough yet, or I don't have enough yet. And by that, I mean, I don't have enough information. The foundation is a little, there's wiggle. There's wiggle in my foundation. And then all of a sudden, your 3 is just going to be like, whoop, okay, I'm on it. We're going to figure out what's unsafe. We're going to figure out what doesn't work.
Right? It's gonna be what is that? Um what animal am I thinking? I was just testing, like, we just gotta, like, test every cage, every rattle everything, like,
Yeah.
escape. Well, how am I gonna escape again? The
Yeah.
hamster's out again. Where'd the hamster go?
The one the foundation didn't feel good, so hamster had to go figure it out.
She escaped out you left the hatch open and she escaped. And better go find her before she gets vacuumed up.
Mhm.
My children are we've never had hamsters. I will not allow it.
Oh, I do not do rodents, so no.
Anyway, yes. It is very, very important. And so again, which comes back to self-compassion and self-love of like, yeah, 3 lines gonna do what 3 lines gonna do. Um, and the more you can love yourself through it, and and other people have really like resonated with that too. Like, oh, I see what I did there. More you can have that light levity
Yeah.
when you notice it. Oh, okay.
There it is.
We found the
This is
hamster.
fun. Yeah. Ta-da!
She'll come back. It's fine. But yes, it's good. Well, I feel like we should like wrap it up. Uh,
Yeah.
this is a long one.
Yeah, well,
Is what it is. I hope you enjoyed our lovely listeners. We love so much. But yes, go on to YouTube and find this section for the last, I don't know, like 20 minutes. I've had, the not self strategies of the open centers on, so you can go and see that, or go search it up. Super, super helpful to just ask yourself those questions, like Lauren said. Um, and then go check out moneystorycards.com. Go they're beautiful. They've got the question on them, then they've got, a little bit of context there for you too, so that it really is like you can be your own guide through this.
yes. And they are, HTML files, so you get them the moment that you press the purchase buy now button. They
Yes.
come as a download in an email.
Mhm. Yes, and they also are available now. The part of the workaround
Ye
was,
yeah.
they're hosted on a website as well, so you can go and grab them. You can download them and take them anywhere, but they are completely virtual, so that you can literally start. Like, if you're hearing this and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I want those," you can literally have them right this moment. Like in 2 minutes, if you go to moneystorycards.com, you'll have them in your possession and able to start, doing that contemplation. Grab a journal
Yes.
if that helps. If you're a writer, like writing it out, like journal on these. If you're a talker, talk it out. I would suggest, talking it out into, if you have an iPhone, you can talk into voice notes,
Yeah.
and then it'll give you a transcript. All of like it's like there's so many ways that you can like really like give yourself the, I mean, just the experience of guiding yourself through some of this work. And it's when you recognize your own patterns in the moment, it's so, so powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love it. So we'll have the link, moneystorycards.com. So you can go grab those. There's the main core deck. I suggest you start there. You
Yes.
can also get the complete collection, which has the core deck and all of the expansion packs included. But if you're like, nope, I need to talk to my kids about money. So I want the core deck and the parents and children, or I want the core deck and talk to my life partner or romantics partner. There's the business questions, I will say. The business owner questions, if you are an entrepreneur, the business owner questions are really good.
Yeah.
They are really, really good. It actually points to a lot of the work that we do in Expansive CEO, in X Squared. Like, you're gonna get you're gonna get some good questions to
Yes.
contemplate, especially in the business owner pack for entrepreneurs. So, would love to hear your feedback as well. If you download them, Love to, hear your reviews, feedback, how it worked, if it was easy to use and work with, all the things. We would love to hear it because they're brand new in the world still. And we want them
Mhm.
to have a long life of helping lots of people
Yes.
is the goal. So, anything else for today? Did I miss anything?
No, this
Substack.
is a great conversation. Oh, well, yes, always. Go to moneystory.coms or Expansive CEO on Substack. Those are where we really start to build out and we go deeper into these topics as well. And if you have questions, that's where we're most easily reaches on Substack. We're always there, always interacting not only with each other, but with all the wonderful people out on Substack. But if you have any specific questions, you can always go to Substack or, of course, Lauren at Expansive CEO or Hannah at Expansive CEO. So 2 calls to action, moneystory.com, moneystorycards.com, or Expansive CEO on Substack.
Love it. All right, friends, we will see you next time. I hope you have an awesome week. See you later.
Bye for now. Bye, friends.